Alright guys, welcome back to the option selling playlist. Last video we covered options as a whole, just generally what they are. Specifically, we went into buying options, buying calls, and buying puts, and explaining how they work. Just a very brief overview again guys. Buying a call is a bullish bet, meaning that you think a stock is going to go up. Buying a put is a bearish bet, meaning you're betting that a stock is going to go down. So in simple terms, guys, all the very big, massive 1,000 or 10,000% gainers that you see on Reddit or on Wall Street Bets is normally going to be somebody buying a call or a put. However, you have to understand that these are typically very high risk. They are subject to something called time decay, which I explained in a previous video relating to the horse races. Unless you are extremely good with options trading and trading in general, you are most likely going to lose if you are constantly buying naked calls and puts, like I just explained. So you might be asking yourself then, well, if people are constantly buying options and they are constantly losing, well, how can I take advantage of that and make money? Well, the answer is more simple than you think, and it's actually simply being on the opposite side of the trade. So just like you can buy an option, or you can buy an apple, or you can buy an orange, there always has to be a seller on the other side of that trade. So when you are buying an option, if you're buying a call or buying a put, there is always somebody on the other side of the trade that is selling that option to you. And in the same way that we talked about the horse racing bet, if you're betting on horse A winning, somebody else is betting on horse A losing. Or if you're betting on a basketball game, or if you're betting on a baseball game or a soccer game, if you think one team is going to win, there's always somebody on the opposite side of the trade that's betting that that team will lose, and one of you is going to win the trade. And now that you understand that concept, we are now going to go into option selling, which is how I personally make income every single month. The odds of profitability and success with options selling are typically much higher than they are with options buying, and they are such an incredible strategy and so lucrative. But there are two barriers to entry to get into option selling. So along with the basics of option selling, I'm going to be covering those two barriers and how you can get past them. So let's get started right now. So the two main barriers to entry for option selling, number one is going to be the amount of money you have to have, meaning it's going to require a decent amount of capital. And number two is simply education. I've been trading options and selling options for a long time, so to me it's pretty much second nature at this point on how it all works. But for somebody new, understanding the concepts does take a lot of time, and it does take a lot of explanation and thought process before you get the hang of it. So right now I'm going to cover how to sell options, what kind of capital requirements are needed for it, and then of course I'm going to go into the more intricate details of option selling to better explain to you guys how this all works, and so that you do not have to worry about that knowledge barrier to entry because you're going to understand it. As I said before guys, with options there are calls and puts. We've already said previous in the video, buying a call means you're betting that a stock is going to go up in price. Buying a put means you are betting the stock is going to go down in price. And now I want you to think of this in the same way that we talk about apples and oranges, right? For every buyer of an orange, there has to be a seller of an orange, right? Every buyer of a apple or a banana or whatever fruit you want to talk about, every buyer of that fruit, there has to be a seller. So let's think about this logically. So if you are buying a call, you're betting the stock is going to go up, right? So now imagine who's on the other side of that trade. Somebody is selling you that call. So if you're buying a call betting the stock is going to go up, what do you think the seller of that call is betting that stock will do? So if you're buying a call betting it's going to go up, somebody is selling you that call that you're buying. So if you're betting it's going to go up, if you guess that the seller thinks that the stock is going to go down, you're correct. So buying a call is a bullish bet, meaning you think the stock's going to go up. Selling a call is a bearish bet, which means you think the stock is going to go down. And now let's go over to the put side. Again, if you are buying a put, you're betting that the stock is going to go down, correct? So now let's see if you guys can guess this. If you're buying a put and you're betting the stock's going to go down, what do you think the put seller, the person that's selling you the put, what are they betting the stock is going to do? If you think and you guess that they are betting the stock is going to go up, you are correct. Again, buying the put means you think the stock is going to go down, and somebody is selling you that put that you're buying, right? You're buying the put, someone has to be selling that put contract to you. they're betting the stock is going to go up. So I know this can be a little bit complicated to understand, but for now, have that on your charts, have that in your notes, make sure that you understand the difference, which one is bullish, which one is bearish, and vice versa. All right, guys, so now we were in my Charles Schwab brokerage. Personally, I use Charles Schwab, but this is actually their platform, Thinkorswim. I downloaded this on my desktop, and this allows me to do all of my trading. And what I'm going to show you guys right now is how to use the option chain, where the buying and selling of options is, the calls and the puts, obviously. And all you have to do is go to the trade function, and you're going to go over to the options chain. And what you're going to see here on the left side of the screen is all the dates of all the expirations of the options that you can choose from. So here you can see the May 2nd expiration is a Friday. That is what I currently have a position in. And right here is where you can actually type in the symbol that you want to trade. For this example, guys, I'm going to go into Tesla, because Tesla is one of the stocks that I personally sell options on, and I generate a decent amount of monthly income just off of this one stock alone. So if you go ahead and click into the specific contract or the specific option that you want to trade, in this case the May 2nd, you can see here I'm going to explain everything on the screen. First of all, you have your calls to the left of the screen, you have your puts to the right of the screen, and then you have your bid and your ask. So when you click on these, that's going to allow you to either buy or sell the option. And then of course here on the right, you have your strike price. So whatever strike you want to pick for Tesla. And you can see here that we shift in color from blue to black. I know you guys can see that right here. And that essentially is where the stock becomes in and out of the money. So if you guys look over here and hover over my red position section here, this means that I actually have a position in the 165 strike for puts. Now, again, there's a bid and the ask. So if I click the ask, it's going to give me the option to buy a put. If I click the bid, it's going to give me the option to sell a put. And vice versa, guys. If I'm on the call side of the screen, right? Before this, I was on the put side. If I'm on the call side and I hit the bid, it's going to give me the option to sell a call. If I hit the ask, it's going to give me the option to buy a call. And if you're on Charles Schwab, guys, I mean, let's just go over to this put side again just to explain this. If I'm trying to sell a put on Tesla, again, what does that mean? I'm actually bullish on the stock. I want it to go up, but regardless, you can see here what all of these mean. This is a single spread, meaning it's just a single options contract. If you're just looking to sell a regular option, sell a regular put, you can see the side is the sell. The amount of contracts that you're looking to sell. The symbol is obviously Tesla. The expiration date is May 2nd. The strike price is 165. The type is put, and the price, of course, guys. So this is a little bit confusing to understand, but I'm going to go into this right now. All right, so I'll go back to the brokerage in just a second, guys. I'm going to pull out the notepad one more time in just a sec, because I want to explain to you guys what that price section was in the brokerage we just saw, how it differs between buying and selling options, and why it's so awesome to sell options. All right, guys, so let's go over quick refresher. We're going to have our buying and our selling calls and puts. So again, guys, when you are buying a call, it is a bullish sign, right? You want the stock to go up. When you are buying a put, you want the stock to go down. Remember, guys, buying a call is bullish, buying a put is bearish. Now, on the other side of the trade, guys, like I've explained many times throughout this playlist, if you buy a call or you buy a put, somebody is on the other side of that trade selling that options contract to you. So if you are buying a call, it's bullish, right? So the person that's selling you that call option is actually betting the opposite. They want that specific stock to go down. And vice versa. If you buy a put, right, we think that it's a bearish call, right? We want the stock to go down. There's somebody on the opposite side of that trade that thinks that the stock is going to go up. So remember that whenever you buy something, the seller is doing the exact opposite thing to you, or wants the exact opposite thing to happen. So now is where that whole situation comes into play that we just saw earlier, where there was that price feature on the option that you selected, right? When we went in the brokerage, I'll show it to you guys again in a second, but we were looking to sell a put on Tesla, and you saw this price of 99 cents. So if you're wondering what that is, price is actually the amount of money that you are going to get paid for selling that put. And this is why option selling is so beautiful, is that you actually get paid to sell options to people that are willing to buy them. And why is that? Let's quickly go over an example with a merchant. Imagine that this is me and I want to buy an orange from the store, right? I go to the store and there's all these oranges and apples and bananas, and there's a merchant that is selling me the fruits, right? So if I want to buy this orange, I have to pay the merchant who is selling it. And in exchange, he gives me the orange. So the same thing works with options contracts, right? If I, for example, am betting that Tesla is going to go down in price, I want to buy a put. So I go over to the merchant store. he has all of these contracts that he's willing to sell. In this case, he has a Tesla put he's willing to sell. So I buy the Tesla put, for example, for $100, and that $100 ends up going to the merchant who's selling me the put. In exchange, he writes the contract, and now we have a bet. So if I wanted to buy, for example, the Tesla 165 put expiring May 2nd, 2025. Let's say for argument's sake that this costs me $100. Right? I have to pay $100 for this options contract. And if Tesla all of a sudden drops in price massively, let's just say Tesla's trading at $254 per share right now. If Tesla drops massively, then this $100 is obviously going to grow into a lot more money. Let's just say, for example, $200. But this $100 that I'm paying for this put, it doesn't just disappear into thin air, right? This money is going somewhere. This money is actually going to the other side of the trade, the merchant, who is selling that exact same contract, the Tesla 165 put for May 2nd, 2025. So this $100 that I'm spending to buy this put actually ends up going to the seller of the put. So he actually ends up collecting $100 in premium. So when you saw this price feature in the brokerage, that was actually the premium that I am going to get paid for selling that put to somebody who wants to buy the put. So now that we understand the dynamic between a buyer and a seller of an option, now we have a better idea of what's going on here, right? In this case, guys, if you wanted to sell the 165 puts by clicking on the bid section, you can see here that for one contract, you're going to get paid 99 cents for selling this option. So there is somebody on the other side of this trade that is going to be willing to buy this option for 99 cents, and they will be paying you this premium in exchange for buying this contract. Now, I know this says 99 cents and you're probably wondering, that's a very small amount of money. Why would I ever sell an option for 99 cents? Well, the answer is you're right. You would never do that. And this is not actually 99 cents. What this actually is $99. And the reason being, guys, is because you have to multiply this price, the 99 cents, by 100. Why 100? Because with an options contract, you're always owning or having the right to own or the right to control 100 shares of that company. Okay, so the premium that I would be earning for selling this put is actually $99, not 99 cents. So now you're probably wondering to yourself, well, wow, this is awesome. I'm just writing up this contract to sell a put on Tesla, and I'm just going to get paid $99. Well, there is a catch, and it's not a negative catch, but it is one of those barriers that we talked about earlier, and that barrier is capital. All right, so what do I mean by the barrier is capital? So let's go over an example still. We are selling the Tesla 165 put expiring May 2nd, 2025. And let's just say that Tesla is currently trading at $250 per share, and the date today is April 15th, 2025. Again, guys, from the brokerage, we saw that for selling the put, we are actually getting paid $99, right? We are selling the put, somebody is buying the put from us. So this seems like a no-brainer, right? We're getting paid $99 for selling this put. Where is the catch? Well, the catch is, guys, in order to sell puts, you are essentially making a promise to buy 100 shares of that specific company at your strike price. So in this specific situation, guys, I'm getting paid $99, and the reason I'm getting paid $99 is because I am promising to buy 100 shares of Tesla at my strike price, which is $165. So what does this mean? This means I need to have $16,500 of capital sitting in my brokerage account in the case that Tesla ends up hitting $165 per share by the date of this expiration for this contract. So in this specific case, guys, right, it's April 15th. And Tesla's trading at $250 per share. So the odds that Tesla is going to go down in the next 15 or 17 days, give or take, excuse my math, but the odds that Tesla goes down almost 50% from $250 a share to $165 is very slim. So the odds are pretty high that I'm going to get paid this $99 per contract. And I'm going to get paid this regardless. Even if Tesla hits $165 per share, I'm still going to get paid this. But the difference is, guys, that if on May 2nd, Tesla is at or below $165, I am going to be forced to buy 100 shares of Tesla at $165, meaning I'm going to pay $16,500 to own 100 shares of Tesla. So there really is no lose-lose here. I know that $16,000 is a lot of money to some people. I get that. But if you are looking to own Tesla for the long term, this is a win-win for you, right? You're going to get Tesla at almost 50% off from the price that it is today, right? If you end up getting filled on your order at $165 when Tesla's currently is trading at $250 per share, and you're going to get paid that $99 for that contract that you sold. So this is a win-win, guys. But the thing that I have to reiterate here is that if you are an option seller, this has to be a stock that you want to own for the long term. If you are selling puts on companies that you don't like for the future, and let's just say we have a big decline in the share price and you're all of a sudden forced to buy 100 shares, you have to be comfortable owning that position. So the biggest takeaway that I can give for you guys here is that if you sell puts, you want to be selling those puts on companies that you love for the long term. For me, that comes from companies like Tesla, Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. You can also sell puts on ETFs like QQQ or SPY. But typically, guys, I only sell puts on blue chips and the Mag 7. All right, guys, so quickly going back to our Thinkorswim platform here, I want to show you guys another example. We've talked about the May 2nd expiration, right? This is about 17 days out. Let's go over to the May 30th expiration date, which you can see here is 45 days out. And let's see what we could get for Tesla. Again, Tesla's trading at $254 per share right now. The expiration date is 45 days away, meaning May 30th. And let's see what we could get, for example, for selling the 200 puts on Tesla. So if we go over to our put section, guys, and we hover over the 200 strike price, right? What does this mean? We're selling the 200 put on Tesla. So essentially we are betting that Tesla is going to stay above $200 per share. If it goes below $200 per share, we're going to have to buy 100 shares of Tesla at $200. If we head over to the bid section, right, this is the premium we're going to get paid for this contract. So if we go over and change this to 1, I don't know why, guys, but it automatically starts at 10 contracts, but we're only going to sell 1 for the sake of this video. You can see it's Tesla expiring May 30th, 200 strike price, and it's a put. And you can see here that you're actually going to get paid $6.60, or in the case of the option, it's going to be $660 for this options contract. Meaning, guys, if you wait 45 days and you sell this option today, you sell this put, you are going to get paid $660 at the time of expiration for selling this put. All right, guys, so let's go over this example now. So going back to what we had in the brokerage, right? We are selling a put on Tesla. We're selling the 200 put and it's expiring May 30th, 2025. We are getting paid $660 for selling this put, right? Somebody is on the other side of this trade buying the put, and it's going to cost them $660, and that is going to go into our pockets. Now, this expires 45 days from now, right? So you're going to get paid this full $660 in the next 45 days. So let's do the math on this, guys, right? You're selling the 200 put, correct? Which means that you are making the promise to buy 100 shares of Tesla at $200 per share. So what is the capital requirement for selling this put? Well, in the case that Tesla's trading at or below $200 per share, you are going to have to buy 100 shares at $200 per share, which comes out to $20,000. Let's just say, guys, for the sake of argument, that it is May 30th now, right? Today is actually April 15th. So May 30th is 45 days from today. And let's just say that Tesla is trading at $202 per share. Right? So you sold the 200 put, but Tesla's trading at $202. Well, in this case, nothing happens, right? You get paid your $660 and you walk away from the trade. You don't have to front any capital. You get paid $660. So this is the beautiful part about selling these options, right? I can rinse and repeat this every 45 days or 30 days, whatever expiration I select, and I get to collect money every single month for selling this option. So in this case, I'm getting paid $660 every 45 days. So there's 365 days in a year, right? If we divide it by 45 days, that comes out to about 8, right? So I can do this, I can sell this put 8 times in a year, meaning every 45 days, right? I can sell this put for $660 times 8 means I would be able to collect $5,280 every year for selling this put on Tesla every 45 days. So if we divide 5,280 by the $20,000 capital commitment, that comes out to 0.26. If you multiply that by 100, you are actually making a 26% return, or ROI,
on your investment every single year, right? Where are you going to get 26% return on your capital every single year? The stock market, if you were investing in the S&P or the NASDAQ, you are averaging about an 8% return on a good year, right? 8%. So when you're selling options on companies you love, you can potentially earn a 26% ROI. That is significantly better than 8%. Now, again, this is not to say to not invest in the S&P and QQQ. These are different investment strategies with different risk profiles. But in my eyes, if I want to own Tesla for the long term and I have $20,000 sitting aside that I want to invest in Tesla anyways, I might as well sell puts on Tesla and collect this 26% return on investment over the year, and then use that money to invest in the S&P or QQQ or to buy shares of Tesla. To me, this is a no-brainer, guys. And again, this is only if you have capital sitting aside, and if there's a stock that you want to own for the long term. This is where selling puts comes into play. Now, that is the first scenario, right, where it's trading at $202 a share, and if we're assuming that every single time you sell a put, you're never going to get assigned the shares, right? You're never going to be forced to buy 100 shares of the company because the stock is always out of the money, meaning it's never at or below the share price. But let's say today is May 30th and Tesla is trading at $198 per share. Well, guys, you still get paid the $660 for selling this put, but unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to put it, you are going to be forced to buy 100 shares of Tesla at $200 per share, which means, guys, that you are now going to take that $20,000 that you had set aside and you are going to now become an owner of Tesla, 100 shares at $200 per share, putting your total cost up to $20,000, right? But this is a win-win, again, because, guys, you wanted to own Tesla at $200, but you also have to realize that Tesla's trading at $198 per share right now. So technically, you are at a $2 loss per share. So you spent $20,000, but now Tesla's trading at $198. So the current value of your asset is actually $19,800, right? Because you have a $200 loss on your shares, which is totally fine. You shouldn't worry about this, right, guys? Because you want to own Tesla for the long term. So in a year's time, if Tesla is now trading at $250 per share, you now made a $50 profit on your shares times 100, right? Because you own 100 shares, that's $5,000 of profit. And you also got paid $660 for that contract. So your total profit on this trade is actually $5,660. And one more thing to mention, guys, in this specific situation, if you actually end up getting assigned the shares of Tesla, if Tesla's trading, for example, in this case at 198, on May 30th, and you sold the 200 puts, right? So we are now in the money. You're not going to get paid $660 in cash. What they're actually going to do is just reduce the cost of your Tesla shares. So you sold the 200 put, right? So that means you have to buy 100 shares at $200 per share. But what they're going to do is actually subtract $6.60 from that share price, meaning that you're actually going to have to buy Tesla at $193.40 per share. So your total capital requirement is going to be $19,340 per share, and that is going to be the end of it. So if Tesla again moves to $250 per share, you're actually going to have a $56.60 profit, right? 250 minus the 193.40 is going to give you that $56.6 profit per share times 100 shares is going to be $5,660, which is how I came to this figure right here.
Okay, so I know that that's probably a lot for some of you. Again, if you're first loading this, do not get discouraged, guys. I know it can be complicated, but I promise you it will be worth it in the long run. It is an excellent way to make extra monthly income, and I'm going to do a very brief overview on this before we go over to selling calls, which is actually the opposite of selling puts.
All right, so very brief overview again, guys. We have our buying and our selling. We have calls, we have puts. Buying a call is bullish, you're correct. Buying a put is bearish. Selling a put is bullish. Selling a call is bearish. So again, guys, if you are buying a put, you are paying money for that contract, right? You're paying a debit. In our last example, it was $99 to buy a put, and you are paying that money to someone who is selling the put. They are getting paid that $99 for selling that put to you. If you are buying the put, you want that stock to collapse and collapse quickly. If you are selling that put, you actually want that stock to remain above the specific strike price. So if you are buying the put, guys, you pick a strike price and you want the stock to dump quickly to that strike price. So let's just say you're picking the strike price of $25 per share for that company. You want the stock to drop very quickly to $25 per share. But if you are selling a put, right, and you're selling this $25 put to the person that's buying it, you want the stock to remain above $25 per share. But if it does happen to drop below $25 per share, you will be forced to buy 100 shares of that company at $25 per share in this specific example. The next thing that we're going to talk about is actually selling calls. So what is the difference between selling puts and selling calls? Well, selling calls is basically the exact opposite of selling puts. Just for example's sake, right guys, if we are buying a call, for example, on Tesla, and currently Tesla's trading at $250 per share, right? And let's just say the date again is April 15th. If I, for example, buy the 300 call on Tesla, and let's just say it expires again on May 30th, 2025, I basically want Tesla to move very quickly from $250 a share to $300 a share. Let's say it costs me $200 to buy this contract, right? I'm buying a call, so I am paying a debit. I am paying the seller of the call $200. If Tesla does move from $250 to $300 very quickly before May 30th, this $200 might turn into $400, for example, right? And I'm going to collect 100% return on my money. But again, the initial cost for me was $200 for this options contract, right? I paid $200 to the seller of this call, right? Because just like an apple or an orange that you want to buy from a merchant, if you want to buy an orange, there has to be someone selling it to you. So if you want to buy a call, there has to be someone selling you that call. So there's someone on the other side of the trade selling a Tesla 300 call expiring May 30th, 2025, and they are actually getting paid $200 for this options contract. But what does this mean for them from a technical standpoint, right? Well, what is the catch is what I'm trying to say. What is the catch for them selling the call? Remember what I said when we're selling puts, if we go back, if we're selling puts, the catch is that we have to promise to buy 100 shares of the company at the strike price. But now we're talking about the opposite. We're talking about selling calls. So what is the promise? Well, it isn't really a promise. What has to happen in this situation, guys, to sell a call, you already have to be an owner of 100 shares of X company or whatever company you're talking about. So in this case, guys, for me to be able to sell this call, we call it a covered call, I already have to own 100 shares of Tesla. So this is where the beautiful part about selling calls comes in, okay? Let's say I bought Tesla at $250 per share, right? And I bought 100 shares. That means my total capital requirement was $25,000, right? $250 a share times 100 equals 25,000. I want to go ahead and sell the 300 covered call like we are doing in this case. I'm going to get paid $200 to do this. So again, what really is the catch? Well, I mean, the catch is that you have to own 100 shares of the company, but where is the negative here, right? If we sell the 300 call and Tesla ends up at $300, what happens to our shares? What happens to our position? Well, no matter what, guys, you get paid the $200 in premium, whether Tesla's at $300 or not by the end of the expiration. But if Tesla is trading at $300 per share by the end of this expiration date, then you will be forced to sell your Tesla shares. And you're going to be forced to sell the Tesla shares at $300 per share. But this is actually beautiful, right? If you bought Tesla at $250 per share and you are selling it at $300 per share, that means you're going to profit $50 per share on your position, meaning that you paid $25,000 for your position, right? But now you're selling it at $300 per share times 100 equals $30,000. So you are actually going to get paid $5,000 in profit, right? Because now you have to sell your position, right? You paid $25,000 for it, you're selling it for $30,000, and on top of that, you get paid the $200 in premium for selling this covered call. So this is a win-win scenario, right? Because you are getting to sell your Tesla shares at a significantly higher price from where you bought them from. The only tough part is, guys, if you want to be a long-term shareholder of Tesla, then you're unfortunately going to have to sell your position. It is going to be for a profit, but you're still going to have to sell your position. So I am normally a lot more hesitant with selling covered calls on my long-term positions. And if I do it, has to be after the company makes a very significant run to the upside. For example, over the last few months, Tesla went from $220 per share to almost $500 per share. So I did sell some covered calls, and I actually got paid over $1,000 in premium for selling the $500 covered calls on Tesla. Tesla ended up reverting back to the $200s and $300 per share. So I get to keep all my shares of Tesla, and I got paid $1,000 per contract.
So it's a new day, guys. I forgot to include this at the end of the last video. That is going to be the end of the option selling playlist. Now, there's a lot of other things that we could talk about here, like rolling your options to other dates, doing things like iron condors or vertical spreads. I could go into more detail about selling the options, what the specifics are relating to technicals and other things, but I'm not going to do that in this video, guys. I am going to come out with a more detailed course on this within the community. If you guys are interested in that, leave a comment down below and I will do my best to make that as soon as possible. And again, guys, if you want access to all of my live trading, all of my option selling plays, all of my day trades, my swing trades, and my long-term portfolio positions, there is a link for our community in the description below. I appreciate your time. Best of luck with your option selling. And if you have any questions at all, send me a DM, leave a comment down below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.